On my birthday, my daughter-in-law gave me a pair of earbuds. Said they were state-of-the-art. I wore them to work the next morning, proud, like some kind of symbol that we were finally getting close. But then a veteran coworker took one look and said, "Dead serious. Call the police." Now, I didn't. I walked away. But the next morning, my work ID was gone, and someone had been inside my home. I want to especially thank you for your continued support to this channel. Kindly tell us your name and where you're watching from in the comment section. We'll love to give you a shout out in our next video. Please subscribe for more stories. My daughter-in-law handed me the earbuds over brunch, wrapped in metallic tissue, and placed inside a soft velvet pouch that looked too expensive for something as practical as audio gear. "They're the best on the market," she said, with that cool confidence she wore like perfume. Noise-canceling, voice-controlled. "Happy birthday." I smiled, said thank you, hugged her even. And when I slipped the earbuds into my ears the next day, I wore them not just with pride, but something heavier. Like proof. Proof that we were okay. That after everything, after the first Christmas she spent staring into her wine glass, after the countless dinners where she responded to my questions with one-word answers, we were finally crossing into something warmer. Family. The earbuds fit snug. They were smooth, matte, with a faint blue light that blinked twice when I spoke. I wore them all the way to work, humming along to a podcast, adjusting the volume with a gentle tap to my temple. They worked beautifully, too beautifully. I work in maintenance at a downtown high-rise government building. Sensitive contracts, locked cabinets, floors you're not allowed to clean past 6 p.m. My job isn't glamorous, but it pays, and it gave me routine after Maria passed. Most days, I kept to myself. But that day, Rick stopped me. He was a floor supervisor, veteran, served 2 tours in Iraq, and came back with half a leg and a sixth sense for things other people missed. "Hey, old man," he said, waving me down in the janitor's corridor. "Nice gear. Mind if I take a look?" I took one earbud out, grinning a little. "Birthday gift. My daughter-in-law says they're the best." Rick squinted at it. Then he froze. Absolutely still. His face drained of color, eyes darting from the device to my face. "Where did she get these?" "I don't know. Amazon, maybe." Rick didn't laugh. He stepped back like the thing was about to explode. "You need to take those off. Now. And call the police." My stomach turned. "Rick, it's just I know what I'm looking at. Those aren't earbuds. They're mics. Real-time transmitters. Russian build. You need to call this in." I didn't say anything. I didn't argue. I just walked away. Because I couldn't afford to believe him. Because if Rick was right, then what she gave me wasn't a gift. It was a wire. And if she wired me, then everything I thought we were rebuilding was a lie. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, earbuds on the dresser, blinking blue in the dark. I stared at them for a long time. I didn't sleep. And the next morning, every door in my apartment, from the hall closet to the kitchen pantry, was ajar. My filing cabinet was cracked. My desk drawer emptied and then refilled sloppily. And my work ID was gone. It felt small at first, like misplacing your keys. Like maybe you'd just forgotten. But my apartment has one entrance. One lock. And I know how I leave my drawers. My systems are old and stubborn, just like me. The filing cabinet sticks unless you jiggle the handle and pull with a little force. It had been opened. Nothing was stolen. Not my spare cash envelope. Not my wedding ring, still kept in the wooden bowl by the sink. It wasn't theft. It was search and recovery. I opened my laptop, hands trembling just enough to make typing clumsy. First thing I checked was my email. Then my bank account. The password didn't work. I tried 3 times before locking myself out. I don't remember standing. I just remember the sound of the chair scraping the floor. I walked to the dresser, picked up the earbuds. Still blinking. Still innocent looking. I didn't even know where to begin. Do you call 911 for betrayal? Do you walk into a precinct and say, "I think my daughter-in-law is spying on me"? They'd laugh. Or worse, they'd log it and forget. So I did the only thing I could. I drove. Not to the police. To Rick. He lived in a duplex 2 blocks from the building. He answered the door with his tool belt still slung low on his hip. "You ready to take this seriously now?" he asked. I held up the pouch. "Take it apart. Tell me what you see." He didn't need long. 20 minutes later, we were at his kitchen table, The earbuds disassembled like a science experiment gone wrong. The SIM card was tiny, nearly invisible under the motherboard. Rick slid it out with tweezers and held it to the light. It's transmitting. The question is where. He connected it to a reader and pulled up a program on his laptop that looked like something out of a movie. Code scrolled. Numbers blinked. And then a map. Russia. Server in Novosibirsk. Encrypted. Live relay. No commercial brand. No product name. Just a blinking dot logging every second I'd warn them. They were listening, Rick said. And not just her. Someone else. I didn't ask who, because I already knew the answer would hurt. I sat there in silence, Rick at my side, a stranger to me before last week, now the only person in my life I trusted. When I left, I didn't take the earbuds. Rick said he wanted to run a deeper analysis. I just nodded. My mind was elsewhere. I drove to the park where Maria and I used to walk on Sunday mornings. I sat on the same bench. I watched the same ducks. But it wasn't the same. Because I was starting to understand something no father ever wants to admit. My son didn't marry a woman. He married a weapon. And he brought her into my home. The next morning, I replaced every lock in my apartment. Front door. Balcony slider. Even the old deadbolt that hadn't worked since 2013. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't post about it. Just went to the hardware store when it opened, spent $182.47 on reinforced locks and a door brace, and changed it all myself before lunch. Not because I thought she'd come back, but because I knew she already had. Someone had been inside my home. Someone who didn't steal a thing, but left behind silence that didn't sit right. And I couldn't stop thinking about my work ID, how it vanished overnight. There's no black market value on a maintenance badge unless you're trying to get access. Unless someone needs to slip past government-grade doors and leave no trace. That afternoon, I sat in my kitchen with the blinds closed, my coffee going cold in the same mug Maria used to call chipped but charming. I stared at my laptop, breathing in the static of betrayal, and opened a new browser. Private mode. VPN engaged. I typed in the name Rick had given me. Kevin Rojas, Private Tech Security. A Marine-turned-freelancer who specialized in recovering compromised data for victims too embarrassed to go to the police. He didn't have a website, just a name, a signal number, and 2 forum threads on a veteran message board calling him the guy you go to when you're out of options. I sent one message. I've been compromised. Listening device inside a gift. Confirmed SIM. Transmitting internationally. I want to know what they have on me, and who has it. He replied in 2 minutes. Bring the device. Cash only. $600 for diagnostics. $1,200 if you want full trace and scrub. I don't ask questions. I met him in the back of a vape shop in East Tacoma. Dark jeans. No-nonsense face. He never looked directly at me. Just kept his eyes on the earbuds I handed over in a Ziploc bag like I was giving him the evidence in a murder trial. They look retail, he said, flipping one over in his palm. But they're not. No FCC registration. No serial code. These were printed in small batch. You piss off anyone with ties to overseas contractors. No, I said. I just turned 62. I eat dinner at 5, and I've had the same phone number since flip phones existed. The only people who know my routines are my son and his wife. He didn't say anything, just took out a thin probe and began dissecting the casing like it was a cadaver. Within minutes, his screen was flooding with signal logs. Long, time-stamped entries, each one beginning with a local IP address, mine, and ending somewhere offshore. Jesus, he muttered. They weren't just recording your mic. He turned the laptop toward me. On the screen were spectrograms. Audio files, yes, but also data pulses. Keystroke logs. Ambient sound identifiers. They hadn't just listened to what I said. They'd recorded everything I typed, every password I muttered under my breath, every rustle of mail when I opened bills. What were they looking for? I asked. Kevin shrugged. You tell me. Got any assets they might want? Pensions, stocks, retirement funds. No stocks. My pension's barely enough for groceries. But I paused. I do still hold Maria's accounts. Insurance. Mutuals. About 80,000. I never touched it. Now they might. That was when it hit me. Not the money. Not even the spying. The violation. They hadn't just tried to steal from me. They wanted to erase me. strip me down until I couldn't prove what was mine, make me look like a senile old man talking to himself in the dark, while someone else logged into my life and claimed it as theirs. I thanked Kevin, handed him cash, and walked out into the sharp bite of early winter. The air smelled like rust and burnt oil. Everything around me buzzed with the kind of clarity you only get after something shatters. I didn't go home. I drove past my son's townhouse, parked 2 blocks down, watched the lights through the window, her silhouette in the kitchen, his shadow pacing back and forth like someone being told what to do. And then I saw it, my work badge, clipped to her purse strap, hanging there like it belonged to her. She'd taken it, used it, and didn't even bother to hide it. Because in her world, I was already a footnote, a man she thought wouldn't fight back. That was her mistake. That night, I went home and dug through the filing cabinet for every piece of documentation I still owned. Birth certificate, power of attorney, Maria's death certificate, the original will. I stacked it all on the kitchen table in neat piles. I wasn't sure what I was preparing for, but I knew this. I'd spent most of my life being the reliable one. The man who kept quiet, paid the bills, showed up on time, and apologized even when he was the one who'd been hurt. I wasn't that man anymore. I was the man who'd been wired like a building rigged to collapse. And now? Now I was pulling out the fuse. The first time I met Lila, she shook my hand with both of hers. Firm, deliberate, a double grip like she was claiming something. "This is such an honor, Mr. Sloan," she'd said, flashing a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "James talks about you all the time." She was polite. Too polite. The kind of polite that turns icy when no one's watching. James was grinning like an idiot, holding her chair out, pouring her wine like we were in a rom-com instead of my cramped living room with the scuffed hardwood floors. "Maria, and I never got around to refinishing." "I'm so glad you could meet her," he'd said, nudging my ribs. "She's something else, right?" Yeah, she was. She was the kind of woman who memorized names within seconds, who made you feel like she'd known you for years, and still, somehow, like you should apologize for interrupting her schedule. But I ignored all of it. I didn't ask why she didn't talk about her family, or why she always changed the subject when I asked what she did for work. She said she was in marketing, digital strategy, consulting for brands. Whatever that meant. I never saw a paycheck stub. Never heard her take a call that didn't sound rehearsed. Still, I welcomed her. Paid for their wedding, small, civil, just the courthouse and a dinner afterward. I paid for their honeymoon too, when her parents couldn't contribute. I figured it was what Maria would have done. Show grace. Build bridges. For the first 6 months, Lila played the part well. She brought wine when she visited. Helped me clean the dishes after Sunday dinners. Even called me Dad, once, soft and offhand, like it slipped. But then things started changing. She got quieter. Not shy, calculating. She started showing up late, always glued to her phone. She'd look up mid-scroll, smile at me like I was furniture, and say, "Oh, I didn't see you there." I started catching little things. The way my mail arrived opened, like someone had tried to steam it. How she'd always step into the kitchen to take her calls, whispering in that clipped, serious tone. Or how James, my own son, started parroting phrases I'd never said. "Dad, maybe you're just misremembering. Don't stress about it, okay? We'll help keep an eye on things." Keep an eye on things. Like I was fading. Like I was becoming a burden they were planning to carry, just long enough to inherit the house and be done with it. But the real shift came when she started planting seeds. Lila would mention my health casually, too casually. "Has your dad been forgetting stuff?" I overheard her say to James one night. "He told me the same story twice last week. And he left the stove on." I hadn't left the stove on. The oven clicks when it's off. I check it 3 times before bed. It's a habit. I know what I know. But that didn't matter. She was writing a new story for me. One where I was unreliable, maybe even unsafe. Where I needed watching, monitoring, guardianship. I told myself it was paranoia. That grief was making me read too much into things. That Maria's voice in my head, "Don't be dramatic, love," meant I should swallow it and smile. Until she gave me the earbuds. That was the final test. A probe. A wire with a heartbeat. Not to find out who I was, but to see how much they could get away with. And I'd failed it. Because I wore them. for days. And in those days, I'd called the lawyer about the trust. I'd reset my bank password out loud while staring at my handwritten list. I'd even spoken to Rosa, my sister-in-law, about leaving the house to her kids if James didn't want it. I gave Lila everything, and she gave me nothing but silence. Until I started fighting back. After Kevin traced the transmissions, I went dark. Switched phones, scrubbed my online presence, called my bank, and requested a full review of account access logs. 3 unauthorized attempts had been made to recover my password using security questions, questions only Maria or James would have known. Favorite honeymoon location. First pet's name. The kind of things people forget to change when they share too much history. The worst part? One of the access attempts came from inside my son's house. Not even routed through a VPN. Just careless. Like they were sure I wouldn't notice. I spent a full day sitting at the kitchen table with every file I owned spread across the surface. I took inventory, not just of assets, but of betrayals. Every loan. Every Christmas I spent alone because Lila's parents were in town. Every time I picked up the check without being asked. $32,000 to help them catch up on student loans. $14,600 for a car that mysteriously got upgraded to a newer model 2 months later. Even their couch. The one she posted on Instagram with the caption, "Grown up living herb sparkles." I paid for that. With the same card I used to buy Maria's hospice meds. They had no shame. Only appetite. By the end of the week, I'd pulled my name from every shared document. Took my name off the "in case of emergency" list at their apartment. Froze every payment that linked back to me. I even called the hospital billing department to make sure no one had added me as next of kin. And then, I called Lila. Not James. Her. She picked up on the second ring. "Hi, Dad," she said sweetly, like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. "Don't call me that," I replied. Calm. Direct. There was a pause. Then, "Everything okay?" "No," I said. "But it will be." She went quiet. I could hear her chewing something. Gum, or maybe her cheek. "I know what you did." "Excuse me." "You bugged me. You broke into my apartment. You used my son to get access to my financials." "That's insane." "Not as insane as what happens next." "You're threatening me?" she asked, finally dropping the act. "No," I said. "I'm informing you." Click. I didn't expect her to confess. I didn't expect tears or apologies or even fear. What I wanted was this. I wanted her to know that I wasn't the man she'd imagined. Soft, silent, slipping. I was watching now, and I wouldn't stop. The day after I made that call, I woke up before sunrise and did something I hadn't done in years. I put on my old work boots, the ones Maria used to beg me to throw away. Scuffed, frayed at the ankle, steel-toed and heavy. The kind of boots you wear when you're expecting to walk through fire. I went to the bank. Not my branch. The one 5 miles out, where no one knew my name, where no one would call Lila or James behind my back and say, "Hey, your dad's here. Everything okay?" It took less than 10 minutes to freeze every account. They asked me 3 times if I was sure. "Mr. Sloan, this will stop all auto payments. This includes shared subscriptions, joint emergency funds." "I know," I said. I pulled out a list. Handwritten. Highlighted in yellow ink. My name was on every document. And so was hers. I revoked power of attorney. Terminated the joint living trust James had asked me to co-sign after Maria passed. I even changed the security settings on my insurance benefits. Maria's policy, the one she'd left in my name, was still untouched. $82,000 sitting quietly in a high-interest holding account. Lila had tried to access it. Twice. Attempted beneficiary change, the teller explained. Flagged it last month, but the system didn't notify you due to outdated contact preferences. Outdated. No wonder she gave me the earbuds. She needed real-time access. Not just to what I said, but to what I typed. Every login. Every security question. Lila didn't want to drain me all at once. She wanted to reroute me. Make herself the fallback. The fail-safe. The one who would catch me when I started to slip. I left the bank with a certified copy of the freeze order and a growing fire in my chest. The kind that doesn't rage, doesn't scream, just simmers. Back home, I opened the old safe in the hall closet and pulled out the manila folder Maria used to call our parachute. Inside were documents we hadn't touched in a decade. The original deed to the house, her will, my pension plan, 3 paper checks I'd never cashed from overpaid utilities. I spent the afternoon digitizing everything. Then I made 3 copies. One went to a lawyer. The second went into a new safe. The third I mailed, and signed and anonymous, to Lila's office address. Attention, Mrs. Sloan. It was a warning, a map of the very treasure she thought she could steal. With every lock changed, every path sealed. Let her see how close she got. Let her realize just how fast the door had shut. That evening, I drove to Rosa's, my sister-in-law, Maria's only blood relative left in the state. She made arroz con leche and told me I looked thinner. You haven't eaten, she said. I've been busy, I said. Tell me. So I did. I told her everything. The earbuds, the spyware, the forged access attempts. I showed her the photo I'd taken of my badge clipped to Lila's purse. I showed her the call log, the account notifications, the security breaches. Rosa sat still, hands in her lap. At one point, she said, "Do you think James knew?" I didn't answer, because that was the question I kept swallowing. Did my son know? Or did he just refuse to see it? They say love blinds you, but denial blinds faster. James wasn't stupid. He was just soft, easily convinced. The kind of man who wanted to believe the people he loved were incapable of harm. That's how you get complicit. That's how you let betrayal grow roots. I'm updating my will, I told Rosa. You'll be listed as executor. Your kids will be my primary beneficiaries. If James wants a relationship with me again, he can do it without my money. She nodded slowly. He won't take that well. I'm not giving it to him to take. That night, Rosa walked me to the car. Before I got in, she said, "You know Maria would be proud of you." I don't know, I said, but I hoped. Driving home, I passed their townhouse again. No lights this time. Just the glow of the porch camera Lila had installed after their first break-in. She told me once it connected directly to her phone. Let her see everything in real time. I looked straight into the lens and waved. Let her see me. Let her wonder what I knew. 2 days later, Kevin, my tech contact, sent me a single text. "You were right. She used your badge to access secure maintenance logs, pulled blueprints, camera angles, power box data. Someone's building a profile. Not for theft, for leverage. She'd been casing my workplace, not to steal from it, to make sure I got fired. One wrong move, one policy violation, and she could submit the logs, show them I was compromised. Elderly staff member leaks building access protocols via personal device. I was a liability, a threat to security. She wasn't trying to rob me. She was trying to erase me, one system at a time. So I beat her to it. The next morning, I submitted my resignation. Early retirement. No questions asked. I cleaned out my locker, left a single note for Rick. Thanks for believing me when I didn't believe myself. Keep watching the shadows. Some of them are wearing pearls. And then I left. 37 years of work. Just done. Because I wasn't going to give Lila the pleasure of watching me be dragged out. I'd rather disappear on my own terms. And reappear later, when she least expected it. I waited 12 days. Not because I was scared. Because I was preparing. People like Lila don't expect silence. They expect escalation, rage, confrontation, begging. They count on you to lose control so they can play the victim. So they can say, "See? He's unstable." But I didn't yell. I didn't even knock. I just made moves. First, I bought a burner phone. Cash. No ties to me. Then I printed everything. Every log, every transmission trace, every access attempt. I included stills from the surveillance footage. My badge. Her hand. My bank logs. The denied login attempts. My revoked power of attorney, stamped and notarized. I made a dossier. 12 pages of controlled, clinical truth. I dropped it off at James's workplace. In an unmarked envelope. Hand-delivered to the front desk. Addressed in block letters. To James Sloan, private. From Dad. I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. He'd know. 2 nights later, I got a call. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was shaking. "Dad, I didn't know. She said it was for your safety. That you were slipping. That you needed backup." I thought she was trying to help. Another pause. Then, "She's gone. Took her things and left. Said I betrayed her. Said you poisoned me. I, I don't know what to believe. But I'm sorry. I am. God, I am. I didn't call back. I didn't need to. This wasn't about getting him to love me again. This was about making sure she never touched me again. I thought that would be enough. But then she showed up. It was a Tuesday. Windy. Cold. I was bringing groceries in when I saw her. Lila, standing on my porch like it was still hers. Designer coat. Gloves too thin for the weather. Eyes like polished glass. She didn't knock. She waited for me to open the door. I did. But I didn't invite her in. You're proud of yourself, she said. Flat. Empty. No, I replied. I'm free. She laughed. A single, humorless breath. You destroyed your own family. For what? Paranoia? No, I said again. For clarity. Her eyes narrowed. I could ruin you. You know that. I smiled. Just barely. You already tried. I reached behind the door and handed her a box. Wrapped in silver paper. A red ribbon tied neatly. She looked at it like it might explode. What is this? A return gift. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. I watched her walk down the steps, her heels sharp against the concrete. She got into a waiting car, a rideshare, not her usual BMW. Guess the joint accounts had really been closed. I stood there until the car disappeared. Then I went inside, locked the door, and turned the kettle on. Inside that box was one earbud. The other I kept. A reminder of what it cost to be naive. Of what I'd never be again. The next month, I bought a small place outside town. 2 bedrooms. A yard big enough for tomatoes. Simple. Paid in full. I started writing again. Old poems. Notes to Maria. Letters I'd never sent. I made dinner with Rose's grandkids on Sundays. And I slept, with both eyes closed. No blinking lights. No shadows moving in drawers. No wires hidden in velvet. Just peace. And one last question I'll leave for you. What would you do if the person calling you family was building your coffin from the inside out? Because sometimes survival doesn't come with a roar. Sometimes it arrives in silence. Wrapped in silver paper. Tied with a red bow. How do you handle betrayal when it comes with a smile and a gift box? Sometimes revenge is just refusing to be anyone's open mic ever again.